Hey, I'm Chef Tom with All Things Barbecue, and today we're going to be grinding, mixing, and stuffing beer bratwursts before braising them in beer and onions and finishing them on the grill. So before we get into mixing our sausage, we want to soak our hog casings. And we're using these LEM hog casings today. These are natural hog casings. They're perfect for brats or Italian sausages or anything like that. And we just need to get them soaking in water so they'll kind of soften up. And then we're going to rinse the salt off of them. So these things can be kind of a mess when you get to them. You just want to sort of loosen them up a little bit before soaking them in water. So let's take these over to the sink. Just give those one rinse before we let them soak. We want to let these sit for probably about 45 minutes to an hour before we start to work with them and clean them out. All right, so it's been about 45 minutes to an hour. We're just going to dump that water out, give it some fresh water, and start running some water through the casing. Now first we're going to separate these. Try to find both ends. One end I'm just going to lay off the side of the bowl so I know where it is. And then the other end I'm going to open up, see if I can get my fingers in there. All right, so there's the opening. And we just want to get some water in there, so we're going to splash it in here like this. All right, and now we've got water running through the casing. All right, and now that that one is done, I'm going to store it with both ends hanging over the edge so I don't have to hunt for them again later. All right, so the casings are ready to go. I'm going to go grab the grinder and we'll get to making our sausage. So I've got my grinder all set up. I've just pulled out all of the parts from the freezer so we can keep the meat nice and cold and keep the fat from melting. And we're using a number 12 10mm die to grind our meat today, which has already gone through once on the same die. So it's going to get a little finer, but it's going to have a nice texture to it for a bratwurst in the end. This meat we're using is just rib tips from spare ribs. We trimmed St. Louis style and then we had some leftovers, so that's what we're using for our meat. But if you don't have that on hand, you can buy some pork shoulder. You just want to go for about 20% or maybe 25 to 30% of fat ratio to meat. So we're going to be making about 4 pounds of brats today. All right, we're seasoning our bratwurst today with the Backwoods Bratwurst seasoning just to make things nice and easy on us. This stuff has got great flavor, and the only thing we're going to change about it is instead of using water, we're going to be using New Belgium fat tire. Now this package will do 5 pounds of meat, and we've got 4, so we're just going to use most of this packet. All right, for the sake of consistency, we are going to be weighing out our beer. We're going to put 5 ounces in here. Now that leaves me with about half a beer to drink. And we'll add it to our sausage. All right, seasoning is in with the pork. We're going to toss it around really quick and then throw it in our mixing bowl. Now, if you have a meat mixer at home, you can use that. If you've got a stand mixer, you can use that. What we want to do right now is start to work this meat until it gets kind of tacky, and that's when it's reached that sausage consistency. And if you need to do this by hand, you can, but you'll want to work quickly because the heat from your hands is going to warm up the sausage, which is going to melt the fat, which will change the texture of the sausage in the end. All right, let's take a look at this consistency. So we've gone from something that was really runny and loose to now this is very tacky. It sticks to itself And that's the consistency we're looking for before we stuff it into the casings. At this point, I'm gonna throw this in the fridge and get ready to stuff our casings. Now the next step is to get our sausage in the stuffer and get our casings on the horn. We want to do our best to make sure that there are no air pockets at the bottom or anywhere throughout. So just gonna pack this in by hand as we load it. Now we're just gonna lock this into place. Until we feel resistance. There it is. I'm gonna put a little water down just to make sure everything moves easily. And just like we did when we were rinsing it, I'm gonna open this and run a little water through because it's gonna help us to lubricate this horn and make sure that we don't tear anything while we're loading these on. So this water, I can keep it right here, and that helps everything move a lot smoother. All right, there's the end of our first one. So we'll start by bringing the sausage all the way to the end of this tube before we tie this casing off around it. Now there's no way that you're not going to have any air bubbles, but we have a way to fix that as we go. When we see these air bubbles pop up, you can take the back of a knife and it'll pop those without doing too much damage to the casing. So we do want some resistance because we want this casing to fill up, but we're going to go and twist these after we stuff them. So we don't want it to be too tight or too full. And I'm just gently applying pressure between my thumb and my finger to decide how much of that sausage is being stuffed and how full it's getting. All right, so we've reached the end of our sausage, and this is where we're going to tie it off. We're just going to pinch that there. And then this we can tie off. We'll leave a little bit of room for when this sausage starts moving while we're linking it up. All right, for our linking technique, we're going to choose how long we want our bratwurst to be. Say about like that is good. And then we'll go ahead and pick another one out right there. So the technique is pinch, pinch, twist. And then we'll move around and do it again. Pinch, pinch, twist. And we'll continue to do that all the way to the end. Pinch, pinch, twist. We don't need to alternate the way we twist. We can do it the same way every time with this. Pinch, pinch, twist. So our 4 pounds is going to give us 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 good-sized bratwursts. So from here, obviously there's a lot of different ways you could cook a bratwurst. If you wanted to smoke it, I would recommend putting it in a dry pan, sticking it in the fridge, and leaving it open for the night. That's going to allow the pellicle on the outside to develop so that the smoke can really attach to the meat. For us, what I want to do today is braise these in beer with some butter and some onions, and then grill them to finish them. So what we want to do now is take the Dutch oven out to the grill, get the butter and the onions cooking, and then we'll add the brats and the beer to that. All right, we're headed out to the grill, and we're cooking on a Yoder Smokers YS640 pellet grill today. Got it set to 400 degrees. Our Dutch oven is in here preheating, and we've got it set up for direct cooking with the grill grates in so we can finish those brats on the grill later on. We'll start by throwing our butter in the pan. And we'll toss the onions on top of that. Just for a little extra goodness, we'll hit it with some House of Q house rub. I'd like the onions to soften up a little bit before we add the brats and the beer, so we're just going to put the lid on and head back inside and let them cook down for a little bit. So after about 15 minutes, these have softened up nicely. We're gonna go grab the brats and throw them in the Dutch oven. All right, let's get these brats nestled in here, and then we'll start pouring our fat tire over the top. So 3 beers was about the right amount to cover up our brats. We're just gonna let these braise now. We're gonna leave them open so that that beer can kind of reduce down a little bit while it cooks. And then when the internal temperature of the brats hits about 140 degrees, we'll take them out of that braising liquid and finish them on the grill. Our brats have been simmering for about 20 minutes now, and they're that 140 degree range. So we're gonna move this pull pot over and throw the brats onto the grill so we can get some nice color to finish those up. And meanwhile, we'll also toast these buns. Now that this sausage is totally set, we can separate these guys to make sure that we get good color on both sides. As soon as you're happy with the color on the outside, you can bet that these guys are cooked all the way through by now. If you really want to make sure that they're totally done, 165 degrees is the internal temperature you need to hit. So we'll spoon some of our onions out of our beer mixture. Lay those down on the bottom. We'll top each one with a bratwurst. Then you can choose your favorite condiments to go on top. For us, we're going to use some of Kansas Flavor jalapeno mustard. This is just a fantastic summertime recipe, so whether or not you guys are making your brats from scratch, I hope you'll give this one a shot. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please click the subscribe button. And if you've got any questions or comments, or there's anything you'd like to see me cook, let me know in the comment section down below. For more recipes, tips, and techniques, head over to thesauce.atbbq.com. All things barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.